From banning ice cream in your back pocket to outlawing whistling underwater, these 10 real American laws are hilariously weird and still exist today. Welcome back, everyone. Here for the first time. Number 10. No free samples. Imagine walking into your local grocery store, looking for some samples of that new cupcake they have out just to try it, and then buying it if you like it. Yeah, me too. But this is actually illegal in the state of New York, according to Section 180 of the state's Agriculture and Markets Law. The practice of offering free samples of food at retail stores was declared illegal, because apparently health inspectors keep an eye on to always guarantee the safety of the food being sampled. They also cited concerns over contamination and tampering. So I guess you could say this law was born out of an abundance of caution. This law is so strange and arguably useless that there is actually a whole subreddit dedicated to people sharing instances of them getting in trouble for sampling food at the grocery store. If you want to read more about this, check out the link in the description. No 9. No flirting with fish. In the state of Georgia, you cannot flirt with fish. Yep, you heard that right. You also can't feed fish by hand or dive or swim with them either. This is all outlined in Chapter 51, Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated. These laws are apparently in place to protect the fish from harm, which I suppose makes sense considering how many people get in trouble for doing things like putting cigarettes out in their mouths. But the flirting with fish thing has got to be a bit of a touchy subject for Georgia residents who are particularly fond of their fish. In 2014, Representative Bonnie Rich introduced a bill to repeal this law, calling it an unnecessary restriction on loving pet owners. She said that the original intent of the law was to prevent exploitation of animals, but that it's now just confusing and uninformed. Whatever the case may be, this is one American law that you will definitely want to keep in your back pocket when you're trying to make a connection with your crush. Number 8. No spitting. It seems simple enough. Don't spit on the sidewalk. Well, that's exactly what's illegal in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. This is all thanks to an ordinance passed by the city in 1951. And yes, they did use the word ordinance. This law has been upheld multiple times since it was originally passed. Most recently, in 2017, when a man named Carlos Matos was cited for spitting on the street after he argued with a police officer. When asked why he had done this, Matos replied, "Because I was angry." To which the magistrate replied, "Well, don't do it again because it's against the law." That's some next level no tolerance. Philly. But spitting on the sidewalk isn't the only thing that is outlawed in Philly. Did you know that owning a duck that can't swim is also a crime there? I'm not kidding. There's even a hefty fine attached to this one. According to Philadelphia's Animal Care and Control, any owner found guilty of owning a duck that can't swim will be fined $500. I suppose this is to protect ducks from abuse. But it's unclear how many people were cited for this, since records were destroyed in a building fire in 2014. But you can bet that this law will remain on the books until someone decides to test it. Number 7. No fake mustaches. Now, mustaches themselves are not outlawed anywhere in America, but in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, it's illegal to wear a fake mustache that is designed to deceive. This law was enacted back in 1915 to crack down on bank robbers who were reportedly wearing fake mustaches to disguise themselves. According to local historian Paul McGinn, mustaches were the disguise of choice back in the day, because they were relatively cheap, easy to obtain, and very effective. But eventually the fad wore off and people stopped robbing banks while wearing fake mustaches. Or maybe they just got better at it. Either way, this law is still technically on the books. So watch out for those clean-shavens who look a little too clean-shaven. No 6. No putting the dog down. This next law might sound like something that should be protected at all costs, but in the town of Islip, New York, it is actually illegal to put your dog down. Yep, you heard that right. It's not clear why this law was enacted, but I can assure you that it has nothing to do with the human practice of putting things down. This law was likely put in place to prevent animal abuse. In fact, this law is so poorly worded that it does uneven specify what kind of animal you put down. But I would assume that the most common scenario would probably involve putting a dog down on the floor or on a table or something like that. Regardless, if you find yourself in the town of Islip with your canine companion, make sure to keep your cool and don't put your dog down. Number 5. No selling your eyes. In the year 1893, the state of California passed a law that made it illegal to sell eyes. At the time, there was growing concern over the practice of body snatching, and it was believed that prohibiting the sale of human eyes would help put an end to it. Although it's unlikely that anyone would actually think to harvest someone's eyes to sell them in the first place, it's safe to say that this law didn't hurt to have. However, this law created a bit of a gray area. What about selling your eyes, as in giving up your eyesight? Well, that is also illegal in California, which might be part of the reason why the state has some of the strictest laws regarding laser eye surgery. As it stands, the sale of eyes in California is still illegal, which means that you can't sell your eyes, you can't buy someone else's eyes, and you can't give your eyes away. Number 4. No taking a picture of a louse. Now we all know how annoying it can be when you're trying to take a nice picture. whether it be of your friends or of your family, or maybe even your pets, only to turn around and see that there's some bug or other piece of debris stuck onto your camera lens. This is particularly frustrating if the thing stuck on your lens is a louse, which is a type of parasitic insect that feeds on human blood. Apparently this is such a problem that the state of Massachusetts passed a law making it illegal to take a picture of a louse. This law is actually enforced by the State Board of Health, and violators are subject to a fine, but the purpose of this law is unreally to punish people who happen to snap a photo of a louse by accident. Rather, this law targets less than savory photographers who make money by identifying lice on people's clothing and then charging them a fee to remove it. This practice became popular in the early 1900s and was largely carried out by Jewish immigrants. It wasn't long before the state realized that these people were preying on poor, unassuming immigrants by charging exorbitant fees for a service that often wasn't even necessary. This law has since been repealed, but not before serving as a reminder that not all businesses are run by honest people. No yelling. We've all been there. Maybe you're running late for work and you're rushing through the streets when suddenly you hear someone yelling at you. You turn around and ask them what the problem is, and they tell you to go F off or something. Needless to say, this is quite annoying, and it's also illegal in the state of Oregon. This law applies to both public and private property and covers any kind of yelling, including shouting, screaming, and speaking loudly. The only exception to this rule is if you are participating in a permitted event where amplified sound is allowed. In other words, if you're at a concert or something, then feel free to scream all you want. But if you're simply out and about and you feel the urge to unleash your inner Hulk, then Oregon law enforcement might have something to say about that. No bathing your horse on Sunday. Horses love baths almost as much as dogs, except they aren't allowed to enjoy them every day of the week. In the state of New Jersey, it is illegal to bathe a horse on a Sunday. This is all thanks to an old law dating back to 1906, which was put in place to protect the jobs of bathhouse employees who were worried that competition from horse owners would dry up their source of income. The law made it illegal to wash a horse on Sundays unless the person doing the washing had a written permit from the Board of Health. However, in 2011, this law was revised to allow horse owners to bathe their horses on Sundays as long as they did so between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. This was done in an attempt to strike a compromise between horse owners and bathhouse employees. But as you can imagine, bathhouse employees weren't too thrilled about this arrangement. In response to the revised law, the president of the New Jersey State Bathing and Laundering Association said, "If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us. Why should we be deprived of washing a horse on Sunday?" This is a sentiment that many Americans likely share. Number 1, no whistling underwater. This one might seem like a silly, obvious law, but trust me, it's real. In the state of Hawaii, it is illegal to whistle underwater. In fact, it was the first state to make this practice illegal. When they passed a law prohibiting it, in 1937, this was done to protect marine life from human interference, and the law has since been incorporated into the federal code. But what's really interesting about this law is that nobody seems to know exactly why it was passed in the first place. Various officials have offered various reasons, but none of them make much sense. One theory is that whistling underwater can disorient whales and cause them to strand themselves. Another theory is that the noise can disturb sleeping coral, but the truth is that there is no evidence to support either of these claims. Some believe that the law was simply a way to limit human activity in coral reefs, which were becoming increasingly popular tourist destinations in the early 20th century. Whatever the case may be, please don't try to test this one out anytime soon. Thanks for watching. Which of these laws surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'll see you next time.